Hello, and welcome to Spain's video profile. The Australian Government Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, otherwise known as DFAT, has recently set up a new special task force to be known as the Australian National Department of Young Scholarly Researchers. The purpose of what has since been dubbed Andy's researchers is to have the brightest young minds in Australia develop profile presentations for a range of countries that Australian firms may be looking to expand into. We are the G team, tasked with presenting a profile for Spain in order to provide Australian firms looking to expand into the country with a more in-depth understanding of what they may face. My name is Dana, and I will be the first of our speakers for today. We will begin by looking into the legal system currently prevalent in Spain and the potential challenges that an Australian firm may face. Spain follows a civil law system, which opposes Australia's common law system. As such, the first challenges an Australian firm may face is familiarising and acclimatising themselves to the system, and also preparing their legal team for the international laws and regulations prevalent in Spain. The main and perhaps only similarity between the two is that they both have statutes and case law, but the differences are larger in number. The two main differences, however, is that in Australia, it is the lawyers that ask questions of the witnesses, demand evidence, and then present their cases based on what evidence they were able to gather. In the Spanish legal system, lawyers only present arguments based on the evidence that the court, such as the judge, finds and brings forward. Unlike Australian common law, the opinion of the jury does not have to be unanimous in a Spanish court, and they are only exclusively employed for criminal cases. These differences in the legal system could be a contributing factor to Spain's low corruption perception index ranking, placing it at 35 with a score of 60 out of 100 in 2022, as per Transparency International's data. Meanwhile, for the same year, Australia ranks at 13 with a CPI of 75 out of 100, signifying the lack of the presence of corruption in its legal system and society. These differences in legal systems and the repercussions provided by it is definitely something an Australian firm looking to expand into Spain should consider and revise prior to doing so. Moving on to the effects of globalization in Spain. Globalization was defined by Held, McCrew, Goldblatt, and Perrotin in 1999 as the widening, deepening, and speeding up of worldwide interconnectedness in all aspects of contemporary life. Whilst globalization has been sparking in Spain for over the past 2 centuries, it began to erupt more rapidly in the previous one, especially after the nation joined the European Union in 1986. The Spanish agricultural export sector was also described as a key element in the international integration of the Spanish economy during the first wave of globalization by Ayuda and Pinilla. It wasn't all uphill, however, as whilst this meant that there was an increase in trade over the following decades and even century, which led to an increase in job opportunities, the labour market has been somewhat flooded with immigrants flocking for work, causing concern for Spanish citizens who are also job searching, as this leads to the competition in the job market. The subsequent international foreign investment in Spain due to the agricultural economy is also a cause of concern for Spain's sovereignty due to the significant degree of control that a foreign investor may have on Spanish corporations' decision-making and other operations simply because they have invested in it as a shareholder or if they have become a stakeholder. Globalization as a whole definitely had a significant impact on the Spanish political economy, It can also be said that some concerns have been raised for the government to call together and create new policies which protect the nation from being overrun by foreign investment and losing power in its own corporations due to this globalization. Now I pass on to Anna, who will take a more in depth look at Spain's economic development and human development.
Thank you, Dana, for the amazing introduction to the Spain legal system. I am Anna, and today I will analyze Spain economic development and human development. It is important that we analyze a country's economic and human development before an expansion of business. This is because the level of economic development in a country can impact the potential size and growth of the market for our business. For example, a country with a growing economy and middle class may provide more opportunities for our business to expand and reach new customers because there's a higher disposable income to spend on products. And a country's human development can determine the workforce quality, consumer base, social responsibility, and the business environment because it can help us indicate the people education, skill, and health. Now, there are two ways to measure levels of economic development of a country. In this case, Spain. The first way is to measure the gross national income, or GNI, per capita. The second way is to use the purchasing power parity, or PPP for short. The GNI per capita measures the total annual income received by residents of a nation, but does not include the cost of living there. On the other hand, the PPP adjusts GNI by the purchasing power. According to the World Bank data, Spain GNI per capita is 40,800, which is fairly high compared to the world average of just only 18,508. And Spain purchasing power parity is about 0.596 according to the OECD database. According to the graph, Spain GNI seemed to grow exponentially, but was only stopped due to the pandemic in 2022. But economic development only provides a static picture of development and does not show the difference in class and demographics within a nation. So now we turn to the human development analysis. For this, we will use the Human Development Index, or HDI, developed by the Nobel Prize winning economist Amartya Sen. As we can see from the present graphs taken from the United Nations Development Programme, Spain is ranked fairly high compared to other countries with a point of 0.905 out of the scale of 1. Spain HDI is rising slowly through each year, except for 2022, is when the famous COVID pandemic happened worldwide. And the HDI most likely will continue to rise with this pattern, which means the life expectancy at birth, educational attainment, and the standard of living will also rise. This suggests that the country has a skilled and healthy workforce, a stable political and economic environment, and a strong infrastructure, which can be attractive to businesses looking to expand and invest in Spain. It could also indicate a high standard of living and greater purchasing power, which can create opportunities for businesses to tap into new markets and generate higher revenue. So in this case, which aspect should we consider to be the greatest importance to an Australian firm considering establishing a presence in Spain? The economic aspect or the human development aspect? Both economic and human development measures are important for an Australian firm looking to be in Spain. However, the economic measurement of GNI per capita is likely to be the greater importance of the firm, as it directly impacts the potential size and the growth of the market for its business. A high GNI per capita suggests that the country has a growing economy and a relatively high level of disposable income, which can provide opportunity for firms to expand and reach new customers. The same goes with the PPP. On the other hand, the Human and Development Index is also important as indicated, but it mainly provides a country position on a development ladder rather than the value of it. Therefore, while both measures are important for an Australian firm to be in Spain, the economic measure of GNI per capita will likely to be the greater important as it directly impacts the size and the growth of the market for the firm business. Thank you. Now it's Jessie's turn.
Thank you, Anna. When considering expansion into foreign countries, it is important to consider the culture of the country you are expanding into. In fact, according to Okura, it has even been argued that the key to successful global business depends on good cross-cultural etiquette and diversity management across a global workforce. As such, we present the cultural distance between Australia and Spain as a point of focus when considering whether or not expansion is viable. Using Hofstede's 6D model with reference to power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence, as well as Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters model based on geographic proximity. According to Hofstede's model, Australia and Spain have a relatively even amount of cultural differences and similarities. Both countries are considered to be individualistic, have normative rather than long-term oriented societies, and though Australia has low power distance, while Spain has a high power distance, Spain's feminine culture, when compared to Australia's more masculine culture, is likely to counteract the preference for hierarchy, such as in the context of managers consulting their employees for their opinions when making business decisions, which would typically be seen in societies that have low power distance, according to Khatri. Differences in culture between Australia and Spain lie in their perspectives on uncertainty avoidance and indulgence. Where Australia scores averagely on uncertainty avoidance, Spain scores highly, indicating that Spanish society prioritizes avoiding ambiguous situations much more than Australia, and views change with much more concern. Similarly, Australia is considered to be a highly indulgent country, prioritizing having fun and leisure time, where Spanish society gives importance to practicing restraint. With reference to Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters model, Australia would be considered as having an Anglo culture, while Spain would be considered to have a Latin European culture. Their geographical distance would render the conclusion that their cultures would be more different than similar. Finally, it must be considered whether Australian and Spanish culture have become more similar or disparate over time, and whether they are likely to continue to become more similar or disparate in future. In order to assess this, we will consider principles of cultural convergence and divergence. Cultural convergence demonstrates that Australia and Spain are becoming increasingly similar through globalization, trade, media, and technology. Evidence of this can be seen in the increased presence of the English language in Spain, indicating the rising presence of Anglo culture in Spain, with reference to Ronan and Schenker's cultural clusters framework. Further evidence of cultural convergence can be seen in the increase in immigration of individuals who were born in Spain who are currently living in Australia, alongside the rise of Spanish culture in mainstream media through television and music, which is consumed by majority of the Australian population. Cultural convergence can also be seen in the steadily expanding state of the relations between Spain and Australia, as described by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of the Australian government. While some indications of cultural divergence in Australia and Spain can be seen in things like radio and film quotas in both countries that dictate that a certain percent of broadcasted media must be local, or the rise of nationalism across both countries, on the whole, the two countries display strong signs of convergence, on top of already having relatively similar cultures.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm Athena, and I will start by discussing Adam Smith and David Ricardo's trade theories. In the contemporary world, there has been a substantial rise in the number of countries expanding their markets and engaging in international trade. This allows countries to take advantage of specialized expertise to produce and import products more efficiently through reduced labor costs and the abundance of other inputs in the host countries, such as raw materials. However, before this expansion, it is important to have a comprehensive understanding of the theoretical foundations that set the groundwork for international trade. There are a number of theories that show why it is beneficial for a country to engage in international trade, but today we are going to be focusing on two. The first one is Adam Smith's classical theory of absolute advantage, in which occurs when a country is more efficient in the production of a good than any other country in producing it. Emerging in 1776 in his book, The Wealth of Nations, Smith recognized that countries differ in their ability to produce efficiently due to natural endowments and expertise levels. With absolute advantage, it is a win-win situation for both countries, as they will both receive benefit from engaging in international trade. This is because countries should specialize in the production of goods that they are most efficient in producing and export these goods to where it is not efficient. In accordance with Smith's theory, Spain should specialize in industries it has an absolute advantage, that is, being able to produce using fewer resources than another country, and never produce goods at home that they can buy from another country at a lower cost. The second theory is David Ricardo's comparative advantage theory from his book, The Principles of Political Economy and Taxation in 1817. Ricardo extended the free trade agreement put forward by Smith, arguing that countries should specialize in the production goods they produce most efficiently, and buy goods that they produce less efficiently from other countries, even if this means buying goods from other countries that they could produce more efficiently at home. Essentially, this theory supports that Spain should specialize in producing and exporting goods in which it has a lower opportunity cost, even if it does not have an absolute advantage in producing them. With these two theories in mind, Spain could focus on the agricultural and automotive industries. Let's look at this situation in terms of Smith's theory first. According to the World Population Review, Spain is a lead producer of oil, producing at 5.9 million tons in a year, thus having the absolute advantage in this industry. This is due to its favorable climate, availability of fertile land, and an abundance in raw materials, that is, having approximately 340 million olive trees across the country. As a result, Spain has the ability to produce olive oil at a lower cost than other countries by taking advantage of its own raw materials and experienced labor. By specializing in olive oil production, Spain will benefit from this absolute advantage in this industry and increase its efficiency and productivity levels, ultimately resulting in economic growth. In relation to Ricardo's theory, Spain could exploit the benefits of its comparative advantage by trading in the automotive industry. Spanish automotive companies such as Seat, in which has a strong presence, suggest that the country is competent and harbors the necessary infrastructure and sufficient labor in order to trade in this industry, having a cost advantage in the assembly stage. Currently, Spain is the second largest manufacturer of automobiles in Europe after Germany, and eighth largest at a global scale. Spanish production plants amount to with 1,000 industrial robots for every 10,000 employees, compared to 1,311 robots in German production plants. However, Spain can gain comparative advantage by conducting market research in relation to the automotive industry. Although Germany has a higher level of automation, it focuses on producing high-end luxury cars, while Spain produces cars at a wider range at a more affordable price for consumers, as well as producing automotive components. In the context of olive oil production, Spain also has comparative advantage to Italy. 1/3 of olive oil produced by Spain is absorbed by the Italian market, whereas only 12% of the olive oil that Spain imports comes from Italy. When engaging in international trade, it may be more advantageous for Spain to follow Ricardo's theory. For instance, Spain has a comparative advantage in the automotive industry, And by specializing in this industry, the country can create an economy of scale, whereby the unit cost is reduced by increasing the production output, ultimately improving production efficiency. To conclude, Spain can specialize in the areas where it has comparative advantage, such as the automotive industry and olive oil industry, to enhance its production efficiency, generate economic growth, and ultimately effectively compete in the global market.
Thank you, Athena, and I'm Evelyn. I'll start with Spain's trade policy instruments. Spain follows to the European Union's common commercial policy when it comes to the instruments of trade policy as an EU member. To control trade with other nations, the EU uses a variety of instruments, including tariffs, quotas, subsidies, administrative policies, and anti-dumping duties. The concepts of comparative advantage and economic integration serve as the main guiding ideas for these trade strategies. For the theory of international trade is supported, there are two theories, which is comparative advantage and economic integration theory. So, according to the principle of comparative advantage, nations should focus on manufacturing commodities and services. They can do so more effectively than their trade partners while importing those that their trading partners are more competitive in. For instance, Spain imports goods like equipment, automobiles, and chemicals, while specializing in industries like agriculture, tourism, and renewable energy by making the most of its comparative advantages so that Spain can increase productivity and boost economic development. Like the agriculture industry in Spain is an example of the use of comparative advantage due to its favorable environment and natural resources. The nation has competitive advantage in the production of items like olive oil, wine, and fruits. Spain sells these goods to nations with less effective manufacturing capacities in these industries. And according to the economic integration theory, more international cooperation and the lowering of trade barriers can boost international commerce and economic growth. The EU provides as an example of this approach by establishing a single market that permits the free movement of people, capital, and products among its member nations. Due to the ease of commerce between Spain and other EU nations, trade value has increased and the economy has grown. For example, economic integration is shown by the Schengen Agreement, which permits free movement of persons inside the EU. The agreement has expanded tourism and labor mobility between Spain and other EU nations by abolishing internal border barriers, promoting economic growth and interdependence. As a conclusion, Spain uses trade policy instruments including tariffs, quotas, and subsidies, which are essentially motivated by the concepts of comparative advantage and economic integration. Spain is a member of EU through initiatives like the EU's common external tariff and the negotiating of free trade agreements. Spain's trade policies seek to encourage effectiveness, economic growth, and integration with its trading partners. Thank you for tuning in to our video profile of Spain. We are a G team of ANDYS researchers, so we think Spain is a viable option for Australian business expansion, despite whatever our conclusion is the industry is important. And for your convenience, we have listed the references used in our video profile here. Thank you.